What's up, YouTubers? So I thought I would do a quick video since I sent a lot of you, I think somewhere around 70 people, as part of my little mini giveaway. I sent all of you, a lot of you, 7024 rods, and the reason behind that was you can't exactly buy 7024 at your local Tractor Supply or Home Depot or Menards or whatever. They don't sell it. And most welding stores only sell this in 50-pound tins, which generally around 200, 300 bucks, and that's a lot of money. And most of you would never run 50 pounds of this rod in your lifetime in the home shop. So it was a great way for me to interact with you guys by sharing some of these, and you get to run a rod that you've never ran and probably never will again. So awesome in that respect. Now these are Blue Demon brand 7024s. Luckily, you guys can, if you like this rod, you can buy these in 5-pound packs on Amazon. It's the only rod I know of that you can buy 7024 in a 5-pound pack. So if you like them, go on Amazon, you can get yourself some more of them. Otherwise, if you, Lincoln makes one called Jet Rod, that's the slang term for this rod anyways, and you're going to be $300 deep if you and 50 pounds in if you buy any other brand. So the point of this video anyways, before I get too off track, I'm going to show you how to run 7024. Now I already have a video out on that, and I'll put the link in the description of this video, but I'm just going to show you how easy it is to run this rod so that you guys get the most out of the rods that I sent you. And I didn't send a whole lot of them, so you know, you want to get the most out of them. So let's get into it. So in front of us here I have a 1/4-inch plate. This rod, generally speaking, you're going to want to weld 1/4-inch or thicker. It probably would weld 3/16 plate all right, and anything thinner than that, good luck, that's on you. Now this rod, as you could probably tell, has a massive flux coating on it. This is about the size of a 5/32 7018, much bigger than an average 1/8-inch rod, and that's because this flux contains iron powder, which turns into metal deposition in the weld. So that is why this thing is so beefy looking despite only being an 1/8-inch rod. This is probably the easiest rod in the world to weld with, and I say that because it starts easier than almost any rod, and it restarts very easy, especially compared to like 7018, and it's about the easiest rod to make a weld. And what I mean by that is all you need to do, and if you look at this pretty steep drag angle, right? You don't want to come in with this rod with like a slight tip back. You can, but the flux is so liquid and there's so much of it that it's going to run in ahead of your weld or ahead of your rod. So what you want to do is with a fairly steep drag angle like this, strike the end of your plate or in the middle, wherever you're at, and literally set the edge of the flux right on the plate. Put a little bit of force where you're trying to like bend it. See how I'm bending it? Just a little bit of force to push that tip of the rod to the plate, and just literally let it burn off at the rate that it burns off. That is it. You don't need to be manipulating this at all. It's not 60-10. Just let it burn off, and you need to run enough amperage. I'm going to make an attempt at welding this at 150 amps. I know it'll work. It might be a little bit too hot for this plate, but if you're not above 130, you're not going to get the performance out of this. You want to melt this thing off like a glue stick or a crayon on a hot cast iron skillet. Think of that. So just decent drag angle, and I'll show you for the camera. That's what you're looking at. Decent drag angle, little bit of pressure, and this flux will keep the arc gap exactly what you want it, and just let it melt off. So let me go get my generator fired up, chuck it up, and we're going to weld this. So I didn't mention it before. This rod will run on AC, it will run on DC-EP, and it will also run DC-EN. I prefer to run it on DC-EP, but it will run perfectly fine. It actually runs great on AC. So I would recommend one of those two depending on what you have available to you. Like I said, this rod's no joke. You need amperage. If you don't run enough amperage on thicker plate, it's just not going to flow out well. Like, this is one of those that you can really put the coals to it. I'm going to run a pass straight down the middle and just let it sit there, and it should slag peel. This has probably got the biggest slag peel of any rod that you'll use. It's like 2-3 times as thick as what a 7018 is. So pretty wild in that respect. Also, the molten puddle on this rod is probably the hardest to read out of any rod short of like stainless. And what I mean by that is you basically have two colors. You have bright red and dull red. Bright red is your molten puddle, and dull red is the area that is solidified, so your solidified weld. Very difficult to see. You can't run this rod out of position because the puddle's far too liquid, and I will get an arc shot to demonstrate what I'm talking about, but very difficult to read, and that's why a lot of people don't like this rod. They feel that they can't see what it's doing. 7018, very clear defined puddle, very easy to read. This rod, not so much. You got to go more by feeling and occasionally a little bit of a glimpse of the puddle to know that you're doing things right. So I'm set at 150 amps. And I'm going to strike this up, and just like I said, I'm going to put a little bit of preload on the tip at a pretty steep angle and just let the rod burn off. I'm not doing any manipulation. I'm just putting a little pressure just like this. That's it. You can probably hear it tinging and pinging as it's cooling off. We'll let that rest. The bead appearance, ooh, that's hot. A little bit of heat input there. Bead appearance isn't the best. This is the first rod that I've ran in a long time of this, but we'll give it a little bit of time and this should peel all off and we'll have a nice chrome looking weld. All right, as you saw in the arc shots, when you get everything right, and man, that's a little hot still, get banana peels off of it and awesome looking welds. I didn't clean the dust up on that, but you can see pretty much looks like chrome. Now on this guy, I would say I was running 150 amps, a little bit too hot for this particular rod. I'm used to running Lincoln's jet rod, which tends to take a little bit more than this Blue Demon seems to, but once I dropped it to 140, that's what I ran these two at, ran perfect. This was at 150, slag didn't peel right off of it, a little bit hot, but I have a feeling, and this is luckily cold, if I just go right down the toe line, yeah, it comes right off. So you can kind of pick it right off, but sort of. See, I lied. All right, let me brush this off. So you can see bead appearance very wide, very flat. You can see how flat that is. 150 amps, I would say, is appropriate if you're trying to weld two pieces together. If you're just running a bead on plate, the 140 amps, much better. Gets a little bit cleaner. The slag comes off the toes. Like you can see, there's still some in there, but very appropriate 150 amps for welding two pieces, a quarter or 3/8 together, but a little bit flat, a little bit wide. Very easy rod to run. Like I said, guys, I literally just ran with it touching and just melted it off slowly as it kind of moved forward. So very easy, very big welds. I like it. I like the rod. It's a little difficult to see, as you could probably tell from the arc footage. You can't really tell what's a puddle and what's not. You just have to go the light area. So the brighter red, that's your puddle. Everything behind of it is solidified metal. So if that bright area is trailing like an inch behind, you need to either speed up or use less amperage. If you don't see a bright area, you're probably running too cold of amperage and the bead will be all humped up. You want this sucker to be flat. That weld right there is perfect for a bead on plate. That's what you want to see. So very, very wide. All right, let's go to conclusion. So what did we learn today? Well, we learned how to run a bead with 7024, and amperage is definitely your friend, but I would suggest, depending on how accurate your welder is on a bead on plate on 1/4 inch, stick to around 140. If you're actually welding things together, bump it up a little bit. But very acceptable bead profile. I like the way this stuff runs, especially in the flat position. It makes beautiful welds. I mean, I think they look awesome. I mean, just perfect. And a big reason to that is the molten puddle stays liquid for so long that all of your, movements, your irregularities, inconsistencies, just get taken up by the self-leveling properties of this rod. So, if you don't have steady hands and you need to weld something in a flat position, this is about the best rod you can ask for to do that. So anyways, if you got any comments, questions, thoughts, let me know. Beyond that, I hope you guys enjoy running these. And if you like them, like I said, go pick up yourself a 5-pound box of them on Amazon and tackle some projects. Now, keep in mind, these are not low hydrogen rods, so if you're welding high strength steel, probably not the smartest thing to do. So stick to mild steel and, non-critical stuff with this and you'll be fine. And as I had mentioned earlier, don't run this overhead or uphill. Good luck. It's impossible. And I don't say that lightly, but it is impossible. All right, until next time.